You're live.
Okay. All right. Good evening or good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another. This is the second Sunday in April when we have Jaminars, and excitingly, of course, myself and our group here, we are ready to present to you one other evening of learning and development, if you will. I am here representing the Jamaica Diaspora Education Task Force, and we're assisted by the Learning and Development Task Force Chair, Ms. Tasheka Winter. She's behind the scene along with Ms. Kimon Gooden, technical team. And we're presenting to you there are two Jaminars this afternoon. The first one is differentiation in the classroom, and that's very interesting. It's not your regular differentiation. So we're going to look at exceptional achievements and what does that look like when we get into it, okay? And then the next one, after we finish with that one, in about an hour or so, we're going to look also at supervision, reflective supervision. And we want to ask ourselves, it begs questions like, what do we mean by reflective supervision? And you're going to get all those, that question and others answered this afternoon. Because we have with us wonderful presenters, Miss Clarke-Greene, as well as Dr. Sherian Demeritus, and they are going to take us through the different Jaminars, the two that we have this afternoon. I have with me, so this is the third group here, I have with me here the Vice Chair of JDTAN, Miss Lesley-Ann Samuel, along with Miss Carleen Largy, Lady Largy, and she's going to assist. Miss Samuel is also the Vice Chair of the Education Task Force and the President of UJA. Okay, so she's going to walk us through the presentation, and if you have any questions, you drop them in the chat, in the YouTube chat, and she will manage all of that along with her assistant, Miss Carleen Largy, and they will take care of all your needs. But if you do not put your questions in the chat, nobody will ever know what your question is. And Ms. Largy will also take the questions over to the presenters, and they will answer every single one for you. So remember, if you have any questions, and you should, put your questions in the chat and you'll get them answered, okay? So I'm gonna introduce to you now Miss Lesley-Ann Samuel. It's just a brief introduction to say to you that she is a wonderful, and you have been on this platform already, and I've seen how she moderate and also facilitate all the discussions that took place already, and just give you a really nice cool runnings in the afternoon on a Sunday, so that your learning will become very, very, very reflective. Okay, starting off the week, starting on Sunday. So I'm gonna hand over to her, and she will take charge from this moment on.
Great.
Samuel, yes.
All right. Thank you so very much, Dr. Dice. It is always a pleasure to be with you all on a beautiful Sunday afternoon as we get some knowledge and some information to get us through to next Sunday when we'll do this again. So let's get rocking and rolling here with our first presentation. She's originally from Trelawney in Jamaica. She grew up in Manchester and attended Homewood Technical High School, Bethlehem Teachers College, and the University of the West Indies. She has a bachelor's and master's in education and is currently pursuing her PhD at Walden University. So almost Dr. Clarke-Greene. Janet works as a talented and gifted coordinator. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our presenter this evening on differentiated teaching, students with exceptional achievement, Miss JanetViana Clarke-Greene. Please take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm really excited about this evening. And oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Okay. So today, my topic is I'm focusing on identifying gifted learners and providing differentiated instructions to meet their learning needs. What is it we are walking away with when I'm done this afternoon? I want us to reflect on who are the gifted students in our classes. What are the characteristics of these gifted students? We're going to understand basic principles of differentiating content, process, learning environment, product, and assessment in an academically gifted classroom. And you will be provided with some resources to assist you or assist these learners to be successful. So that is our goal for this afternoon's presentation. Okay, so before I start, in the chat, I want everyone to tell me or share with me, when we think of gifted students, what are some words and phrases that comes to mind? What are some words and phrases that comes to mind when someone says a student is gifted? Let me give it a minute. Do we have any responses?
So we're seeing bright, smart, think and act ahead of their age. Those are some of the things we saw.
Great, great. So they're bright, they're smart, they're ahead of their age. Very good, awesome. So who are these gifted students? So when I started teaching, I remember my first day, the night before I started my teaching career here, my principal called and she said to me that you were being selected to teach a group of gifted students. I've never taught gifted students before in my life. So, I was thrust into this classroom. I wasn't trained for it. Now I've gotten a lot of training in terms of addressing the needs of these students. And they sent me to this classroom to teach a group of gifted students. But man, that first year, the things I learned about them, that my definition of gifted students expanded more than I could ever imagine. These are the students who give evidence of high achievement. Their capability in areas such as intellectual, creative, artistic, leadership capacities, or they are advanced in specific academic fields and who need services and activities that are not ordinarily provided by the school in order to develop these capabilities. So when we look at our students who, leave high school and they have 10, 11, 12 subjects. The students who are head boys, but they're still on the track team or they're running their National Junior Honor Society, they are straight A's, 4.0 GPAs, and they are part of different organizations in their schools. These students are intellectually gifted. But we think that students are gifted only intellectually, and that is not necessarily the case. When we think of a student such as Shelley-Ann Fraser Price, she is a gifted student, maybe not academically gifted, but the fact that she's an athlete and has done so well, she is gifted in her field. You think of an artist such as Buju Banton. We don't know how intellectual he was in school, but this man is a musical genius. So in his area of music, we can consider Buju to be a gifted individual in the area of music. So when we think of these students, what are some of the characteristics? What are some of the behavioral traits that they exhibit? A student who is considered to be gifted or identified as being gifted, They do possess advanced language development and verbal ability. They comprehend materials at advanced levels and they develop emotional intelligence. They develop emotional intelligence.
I'm not hearing Ms. Clarke-Greene.
Details of what happened in this movie, what this particular actress said, you know, how they felt, how was their emotion evoked throughout the movie. They are able to make connections about facts and ideas. They may see unusual relationship among things that you and I might not be able to see. Many have intense interest. They're curious about learning. They'll watch the Animal Channel every day and they are able to tell you the characteristics of an animal that you don't even know. They think abstractly at an early age than peers. They prefer complex and challenging work. They generate original ideas and solutions to problems. They do not necessarily see things the way we do. They are early readers. They have high energy levels and longer attention spans. And then some of them are, they're unusually sensitive to the feelings of others. So they'll watch the news and they become emotional when something bad happens or tragically happens to an individual on the television. They have advanced levels of judgment. They do not necessarily see things in black and white. They possess large amounts of information about emotions. They are keen, they have a keen or subtle sense of humor, a heightened sense of self-awareness. They may develop inner controls early. They have high expectations of themselves and of others. They are strong. There's a strong need for consistency in themselves and others. Some of them may be perfectionists, which might be healthy and it might not be healthy at all. So that perfectionist that they want to see the assignment done. And if you are supposed to put a capital letter and you do a common letter, instead of them turning in the assignment, they'll just put it aside and start it all over again. And this can be somewhat of a detriment to them, because instead of them turning in what they've done and getting a grade, they'd prefer not turn it in or turn it in late and losing a lot of points. These students also are resilient. They're able to cope with the trying family situations. So we think of those students who live in the inner city, but still they get up every day, they go to school no matter what's going, no matter what turmoil is happening within their communities, and they go to school, they focus, and at the end of the day they're successful, they are a model student, and the community get together to celebrate these students. And we ask ourselves, how did John do this after all that he has gone through? Or we think of that student whose mother may sell in the market, or a child who is homeless, but despite all that is happening, they are strong, they are sturdy about life, and they just go through life no matter what's happening, and they're focused on their academics because they want to go to the university, they want to be a doctor, they want to be a lawyer. Some days they go to school, they do not have lunch money, they do not have bus fare, but these students just press on and they become successful. These students might exhibit leadership abilities. They're curious, they're independent thinkers, they have a strong inner will, that desire to be successful. They have a heightened sensitivity to others and the world around them, strong sense of pride and self-worth. They do analyze information logically. They're creative, artistic, in what they're doing. They're able to store knowledge, to solve problems, and they concentrate. They're concerned about fairness. How did you treat my friend? Or how did you treat my classmates? Did you make my classmate feel bad? Even if they're in a situation where they're being praised, if they do not see their classmates being praised, it is a problem for them. And then we have all these glorious students who they exhibit these great qualities, and we say, yes, that's a gifted student. I give them a math problem and they're finished in 20 minutes, or you ask them to do a project and they do this phenomenal art piece or this phenomenal dance, and you say, yes, those are the characteristics of gifted students. Then we have those students who we give the term twice exceptional. These are students who are identified as gifted, but they do have a learning disability or a behavioral problem. And oftentimes, this learning disability or behavior problem masks their giftedness. So you'll have a student in your class and he or she might be, oh my, you're like, they're coming to class and you dread them coming into class because you know for the whole day, if you do not have a plan for them, they are going to have a plan for you, or they're so disruptive, they have to be sent to the office every day. But if you get the student in a science class and have them build something, or if you have a problem with technology and you call them and they'll come to you and they'll do this thing for you and like, amazing, how did you learn these? These are our twice exceptional students. These are oftentimes the students that are labeled as troublemakers or the high flyers, in the sense that they're always in the principal's office or the assistant principal's office. They're the ones who dodge school because they don't not see the relevance or the importance of coming to school. Or these might be the students in my district. We have a lot of students, immigrant students, who are coming across the border. And these students, they come to us, they have a limited English. So most persons take it for granted that these students are not able to understand or they're not able to read. But when you give them the opportunity or they start mastering the English language, you'll find that these students are very brilliant. They're exceptionally great students. These are students with a focus. They know what they're doing. They'll tell you their story about how they came over the border. And these students, at the end of their high school journey, they might be the valedictorian for their school because they've exhibited resilience. So these are our twice exceptional students or underachievers, those students who have that gifted trait, but because of whatever is happening at home or in their environment, they are not able to perform according to their abilities. So these are our twice exceptional students. So in the categories, we have our gifted students, everybody sees them, they know who they are, and then we have our twice exceptional learners. What are the characteristics of these kids? They are indicators of low self-esteem. They are always angry about something. You say to them, you cannot use that pencil, and the whole class is disrupted because of this. They are self-criticism. They self-criticize, they're disruptive all the time. If they're not engaged, if you don't have something to garner their interest, they will tear your class down. They have these clowning behaviors. They have jokes for everything. You're in the middle of your serious lesson and they just tear the lesson apart. They daydream a lot. They have a lot of fantasies about life. They have apathetic behaviors. They have a wide range of interests that are not related to school topics or learning. So we'll have our girls and they're up into designing clothes and their fashion statements, and they're into the hair and the nails. And they have a specific talent or consuming interest area for which they have exceptional memory and knowledge, which is not necessarily for the academic phase. They are extremely curious and question everything. They are distractible, unable to maintain attention for long periods of time, and they are unable to control their impulses. They might just walk into your class late one day and say, you're late again today, and the whole place is turned upside down. Our job as teachers, is to make sure that all these students, their learning needs, their learning styles are addressed within our classrooms. So we have a discussion, which I really want you to go into the chat and let's talk about this. Let's think about the students that are in your classroom, the students that you interact with every day. When I first started working with gifted students, I had the impression that the bright student, the smart student, the students who challenged me academically were all gifted students. But Johnny, who came to class and slept all day, never did any work, he was an underachiever. He was not a gifted student. So how can gifted characteristics, these characteristics, when we talk about our 2E students, how can they manifest themselves negatively in our classrooms? Please share with me in the chat, how can these behaviors manifest themselves negatively in the classroom? Even if a student is gifted, how can their behaviors as a 2E students manifest themselves negatively in the classroom? Are there any responses?
So we see that people get bored easily. They're quick to engage with others. People said negative behavior, distract and derail your lessons. They can be extremely rude. They may influence others to act negatively. Others said that they behave as if they're bored. These students can be disruptive. It happens. They're too easy, demonstrate boredom. So it seems like most people feel that they become disruptive in the classroom and they could easily influence others to act negatively. They also act as class clowns. They tease other children. They want to take over the lessons. They create conflict in the classroom. They challenge the information that you're presenting as teachers. They test the teachers' preparedness and classroom management skills. So basically, overall, to sum it up, it seems like everyone feel like they become a disruption in the classroom, and also these behavior could tend to become bullying syndrome.
Correct. That's exactly what happens with our 2E students. And I've always wondered to myself, like you learn about the scam, like you learn about the scammers and persons who have done some things, and you wonder how did they ever think of that? And I oftentimes say to myself, these were the gifted students in the classrooms that we didn't pay much attention to. We didn't give them a chance to explore their areas of giftedness and challenge them into a positive light. I remember a couple of years I had this little boy. He was really good with the technology, and I think that at that time our schools were just getting the one-on-one technology, so the teachers had to learn this new technology. And he would spoil me all the time. Whatever I wanted him to do something, I'm like, Mashoud, come here for me and do this, do that. He did just about everything, but Mashoud would not do any schoolwork. He was just like, I'm like, you're so brilliant, but you're wasting your life. He was the kid who would program the Amazon stick cards with all these movies you could watch for free, and the teachers bought into it and everything. And I remember he was identified as a gift. He just didn't do any work. And report card came, and Mashoud got his E's. I think my class was the only class he got a C because he was graded not on what he did, but his potential. And that little boy took his report card home and he changed all the E's on his report card to a B. We don't know how he did it. He said he went into the computer and he did something. So we're calling parents who, all the students got E's, and we want Mashoud's mom to come, and she says she can't come because why is she coming for a conference? Her son got all B's and a C on his report card. And finally got mom in. The little boy, he said, came in for a conference with the mom. We were talking to the mom. He said, no, mom said, here's his report card. He changed his grades from E's to B's. When we had a meeting to see what was the disciplinary actions we're going to take against this little young man, everybody said he should be suspended. I'm like, this is a gifted kid. This is what he's doing. You know, let us try to work with him to channel his abilities into something positive. And of course, we did work with him, and he's now in college doing pretty well. But we can see how sometimes they use their abilities, these gifts that they have, to channel into something negative. So as teachers, our job becomes how can we help them? How can we channel those positive attributes that these gifted kids come to us with? One of the things we do, and we do a lot of training on this, is differentiated instructions. How do we differentiate the instructions in our classrooms to meet the needs of our gifted students? Because we know that our students, they all come to us with varying understanding, varying interests. They are all at different levels when they come to us. So what are we doing, or how do we structure this learning to help these students? So we think about differentiated instructions. We think about these things that we ask our students to do. And it does not necessarily have to be gifted students. It could be students who are in the lower classes. You know, what are we asking them to do? And how do we make sure that whatever they're asked to do, they understand and they're demonstrating learning? So differentiated instruction begins with a mindset about teaching and learning. A mindset that embraces the opportunity to change so that all students can learn. And when we think of all students can learn, we're not thinking, for us, learning is not about everybody scoring 100%. We're talking about all students being able to demonstrate mastery in a content. And this mastery does not necessarily mean that all of them are going to pass, because that's not what mastery is. Because if you have a student who came to you as English as a second learner, and he or she started off at a 10% and they did show growth at 20, 30, they have demonstrated learning, because all kids are not at the same level. We have to have a mindset that empowers teachers, that empowers us, our students, schools, and communities to realize the potential of the individual students and to do the work to realize that potential. And a mindset that says, I am the teacher. I'll do whatever it takes to see every student I teach become successful. And I know that teachers do a phenomenal job in helping students, especially during this pandemic. Some teachers, I think teachers should be heroes. They should be given an award. You know, at our school, we are considering Teacher of the Year. And I keep saying that all the teachers should be considered Teachers of the Year because of what we do in order to get students to be successful. So when we differentiate instructions, remember, we're doing it to meet the needs of our students. We address continuous learning and progress. We always have the mindset that the students are not on the same level. So they're not going to produce the same thing. They're not going to do the well across the
Ms. Clark, we're not able to hear you.
the instructions, and we want to give what's the why behind differentiated instructions? You know, we've heard about differentiated instructions, but what's the why? When we differentiate instructions, we recognize students' varying background, their knowledge, their readiness, their language preference in learning and interest, and we react responsively to this. So we want to differentiate instructions so that students who are based on their learning styles, students who are hands-on learners, that's what we are doing for them in order to get them to be successful. We focus on the process of teaching and learning for students of differing abilities in the same class. So you can have 30 students in your classroom sitting there, And for them, for those 30 students, they have 30 different interests. So how do we work together? And this is not about one teacher. How do we work together as a team to make sure that we are addressing the needs of these students through differentiated instructions? And also the why is the intent of differentiating instruction is to maximize each student's growth and individual success by meeting each student where he or she is and assisting in the learning process. So a lot of teachers ask, or a lot of teachers will say, and I hear this from teachers all the time, we have a curriculum to teach, the state is testing us based on this curriculum. How can I differentiate when I have to teach to this curriculum? When I have to put in 2 or 4 grades per week, they're asking me to do this. So we do different things, you know, in order to differentiate, even when we're given a curriculum to teach. We accelerate the pace, which means that we move faster and buy back time for enrichment in independent study, project-based learning, and passion projects. We accelerate the standards above grade level, so we know that we're teaching a standard, but if you have a 6th grade student who has mastered that standard, it does not make sense we stay there at that 6th grade level. Let us accelerate this curriculum and place the student at the 7th grade work to keep them engaged and motivated, because if they have learned something and we're teaching that to them again, it's going to cause a lot of disruptions and a lot of problems in our classroom. We provide opportunities for added depth, and I'm going to go into a strategy that we use to address this. And we provide numerous opportunities for interest-based explorations related to the topic being studied. So when we think of the differentiated classrooms, and while, you know, when I was growing up as a student, and I had phenomenal teachers, great teachers, I mean, some of the best teachers, but I still remember going into a classroom and we, you know, we sat in rows and the teacher would come and she would teach us a math concept. And if you were not mathematically inclined, it was a problem. I was never a mathematically inclined student. So for me, just hearing my teacher teach a math concept was very difficult for me. And I can understand that, you know, these were the strategies then, these were the ways we were taught. But classrooms now have become more diverse. We have lots of technology. There's funding for schools more now. So what do? Our classrooms that we're in now do not look like classrooms even 5-6 years ago. Now we have even before the pandemic, and we did not have that many or variety of technology, it was still a little bit different. We were asked to group our students, and at the beginning of the school year, we did this interest inventory to find out what are the different learning styles, what are our students' interests, and this was used to guide our lesson plans. It was used to guide project-based learning. It was used to guide all the things we did in our lessons to differentiate for our students. So no longer did our administrators want to come into classrooms and see students sitting in rows. No, students sat in groups, or they had philosophical cheers discussion, or they were in groups and they were debating, they were having argumentative conversations. There was sometimes a little chaos in the classroom, but it was constructive chaos that is happening. Students are arguing about a point, and this is how our classroom changed. So when you have differentiated instructions, all students are not doing the same thing. You might have a group of students who is over there making a podcast, a group of students who is over here writing, a group of students who is over there doing a play, or the artist is sitting over here and he or she's doing a drawing that is associated with the lesson that is being taught. And teachers are no longer in authority in the sense that they are giving the instructions. They become facilitators of learning in a differentiated classroom. So here are the elements of differentiating. When we think of differentiating instructions, we think of these elements: the content, which includes the math, this math, science, social studies, reading, language arts. Content is differentiated when students spend in class time working in either accelerated or extended content that moves them ahead in their own learning. So, I wanted to share this experience. When I was in high school, I loved typing. I had an electric typewriter. In those days, we had the Pica and the Elite typewriters where you use the ribbons and the pencil erasers. But because I had an electric typewriter at home, I could type so well. And I remember going to school and my teacher would say, okay, today you're going to do a business letter. And I formatted my business letter, and in 10, 20 minutes, I would be done. And when I was done, all I did was chat, and I was disruptive in the classroom. Of course, the teacher wrote on my class report, and I still remember because my aunt was like, oh my goodness, she was so mad. She is a brilliant student, but she's very disruptive. All she does is chat, 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 chat. And for me, that was an experience. As a teacher, I think about that, and I said to myself, what if my teacher had given me the opportunity to say, okay, Janet, you're finished with your letter, go type your own letter, your own business letter, and then I would be a little bit more engaged and not give so much problems in her class. Of course, being a problem was really bad because I was disruptive in her class. But for me, that was an experience that told me that yes, as a teacher, we have to be engaged with our students, or we have to give them an opportunity for them to master skills. And when they've mastered this skill, what is it that we give to them in order to move on to the next level? So we have the process part. Process is differentiating by the method students use to make sense of what they are learning. So when we look at our different learners, what is it how are we helping them to master that mathematical skill? Are we using the manipulatives? Are we using a video? Are we using a performance? And then we ask the students to demonstrate to me, tell me what you know, or what have you learned? So are we going to ask all the kids to write a paper if they've read an article, and we want them to tell us what is it they have learned from this article? Do we say to them, you got to turn a paper in, or we ask them to make a flip grade or make a movie or write a book, or do we ask them to do a musical performance? How are we asking our students to demonstrate their understanding of a concept through a product? Also, we have to remember that the learning environment is important. It is differentiated as students interact with others within and outside the classroom, as determined by the content being learned. So if I am going to teach my students about farming, if we're going to do a unit on farming or agriculture, yes, I might have a video, I might go to YouTube and find something, but what would it make a difference if I actually brought in a farmer to talk to the students about, this concept of farming and how farming has changed over the years? So the environment is going to make a difference as we differentiate instructions for students. Assessment. How do we assess the students? It is differentiating when students are allowed to document their mastery of certain standards before that material is taught to the class, or when students are allowed to work more quickly than their classmates. So when we assess our students, when assessment comes into place, how do we measure this assessment? Or how do we ask for students to show us that, hey, I learned this new thing, I need to move on, or listen to me, Ms. Clarke-Greene, I'm at a place where I need some extra help, I need some additional help, and you standing and lecturing it to me is not gonna make that purpose, or not gonna help me to understand that. How do we use this assessment in order to differentiate instructions for our students? All right, so we're gonna go into criteria for excellence. How do we differentiate instructions in the classroom and help the students to master what is it we want them to learn? So we do have the pre-assessments are made. These are really good. And when we think of pre-assessments, we're not always thinking about a test for the student. It could be anything. It could be a discussion, it could be an exit ticket, it could be a student just writing a sentence, a student sharing their experiences. So they're made to determine what students already know, and the data is used to provide appropriate differentiation. So what happens is each time a student is going to do a new unit, we do a pre-assessment. Sometimes we have to teach that new unit. Sometimes some students do not have to teach that new unit, or sometimes we might have introduced the new unit to the students, but they do not stay in there a long time because majority of that content they have mastered. So we make sure that we pre-assess them, and when we're finished, there's a post-assessment, and this data serves as evidence of whether the students have learned or whether we need to go back to the concept itself and reteach it. If we've done an assessment and the student have mastered the assessment, even a pre-assessment, we do not remain there. We provide some differentiated instructions for them in order to move them to a higher level. We do extended learning experiences, and they're provided for more in-depth examination of the regular curriculum. And I'm going to show you an example of a student who is passionate about animals and the environment, and they provided us with a more in-depth examination of this topic based on her passion and how her teacher differentiated the instructions. There's a variety of acceleration opportunities available for our students, and it does not necessarily have to be just giving them the book work. It could be going out and do an independent project on their own on a topic that the other students are learning about. And when we differentiate instructions for students who have mastered a skill, we make sure that when they've proven that they've demonstrated it, they have to have a product to show to us that, hey, I've mastered it and I've taken my learning to a higher level. It could include research, also creation of original products, and I'm going to share one with you today. We do have a variety of instructional groupings that are used to facilitate differentiated instructions for gifted and talented students. We do have a lot of flexible groupings. When our students come to us, especially at the beginning of the middle school years, when we ask them to get yourselves in group, because we love to give them choice. We think choice is important. And we say, get to working in a group with your students. Oh, they run to work with their friends who, even though they're their best friends, they're never on time with an assignment. They procrastinate a lot. So we give our students a choice in terms of, we don't say, this is the group you're going to in. You're going to work in a group. They have the choice most of the times. We do provide resources beyond the school setting, and they are used to provide appropriate educational experiences for our gifted and talented students. That means we do provide a plethora of activities and clubs to develop their giftedness, but this is differentiated also, because all students will not want to be in a math club. All students will not want to be a debater. All students do not want to do Explore Vision. Some students, they don't want to do anything. They just want to come to school, enjoy school, and go home and watch TV. And that is okay. That's all right. Because when we differentiate for students, they themselves do have choices. These are some strategies that we use in our differentiating for our gifted learners. We do have curriculum compacting. I'm going to go into that a little bit. We do pre-assessments and grouping. We talked about pre-assessment and grouping students. We do the acceleration where they're at a faster pace, and there's a level of challenge for our students, because if we do not engage them, they're going to be very disruptive. They will have a plan for us. A couple years ago, our school got into Kaplan's depth and complexity model, a phenomenal model in terms of getting students engaged about learning and to have them dig for deeper understanding of concepts that they've learned. We do have extensions. We have choice menus, as its name suggests, where students have a choice in how they want to demonstrate their understanding. And we do have independent studies. So when we are asked to compact a curriculum, it is a little bit of work, yes, but as we say, as we always share with the teachers, you do not have to do every strategy as it relates to differentiating instructions. You just need to find 2 or 3 strategies, and you practice this over time. You revise it over the years, and you've mastered it. And these are the strategies you use with your students, because we do not want teachers to be burnt out. So we say find 2 or 3 strategies that you're great at. Get these strategies, master them, use them with your students, try to present them at a conference or two, share with other persons, see how other persons are using these strategies. And then over time, you might pick up another one and you master it, and the cycle goes on. So when you compact a curriculum, you condense, you modify or streamline the regular curriculum to reduce repetition of previously mastered material. Compacting what students already know allows them for acceleration or enrichment beyond the basic curriculum for students who would otherwise be simply practicing what they already know. So if you're in a math class, and I just use math as an example, and students are doing 3-digit multiplication, and they've mastered 3-digit multiplication, but this is what we are actually doing one or 2 days, and we revise this with the student. However, we look at the next standard that the students need to do, and the next topic, and we compact that. So we give them a little bit of what they already know, and then we move on to what they should know. And based on that, we compact it for the students. So at the same time, while they are learning this new concept, they are trying to master, while they've mastered this older concept, we are introducing them to something new. It takes a lot of planning to do curriculum compacting, but once you've mastered this strategy or this skill, you are basically good at it. We give alternative activities and enrichment accelerations. For example, we provide activities and opportunities that allow for critical or creative thinking, in-depth exploration of a topic, different aspects of the same topic, independent investigation and research. Students do that. They do anchor activities, or we have a center time where they go and they do what they are interested in. They do a lot of problem solving. We do encourage a lot of contests and competitions during these enrichment activities. They cultivate logical reasoning skills. And one of the things that our school does is we do have an enrichment mod twice per month. So we are not a school that affords transportation outside of this after school activities for after school activities. So our principal came up with a phenomenal plan. So what she did was she offered enrichment during the school day. So we have a 2-hour early dismissal model, and all the students, she has about 50 different enrichment activities. All teachers sign up for something that they're good at, and they teach the children these things. So you have something for crocheting, cup stacking, you have a chorus, band, you have things that are not necessarily afforded within the school day. You have a walk-in club, you have a dancing club, you have all these phenomenal experiences for students. And so we're developing and differentiating for the needs of each of our students. Now, this is an example of a student that I have. She's an 8th grader, and she's a passionate person for animals and saving environmental issues. So yesterday she did a presentation, and I'm just going to give you a clip of a topic in science. The teacher just gave them a topic. She had mastered the topic, and so the teacher differentiated the instruction, accelerated it, and allowed her to go explore her topic in depth. And then she had to do a product, present her understanding of this topic. She decided to do a TED Talk, and this is what her TED Talk was about. So let's see. I hope you guys can see. Okay. So she had her TED.
Imagine staring at a beautiful, sparkling lake. The wind blows as the trees and tall blades of grass waver in the wind. Small fish swim in the clear, glistening water. You can hear the small, soft buzzing sounds of the summer bugs. Now imagine that lake and turn it into a green, mushy, algae-filled body of water. Fish lying dead, floating at the top. A sign saying, "Do not drink, poisonous," placed near the edge of the lake. That's what's happening to so many bodies of water. But why? What could cause such a beautiful landscape to turn into a swampy deathbed for so many aquatic animals? Maybe it's because of that one small bottle standing at the top shelf of your garage. Fertilizer, that helpful chemical living in your garage to help brighten your garden. Your plants magically grow and flourish due to this man-made substance.
Okay.
Gardens help bring greenery to almost every environment.
So that was an example of a differentiated instructions for our students who I'm sorry, that was given a chance to explore a topic in depth. Let me see. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Students who had to explore a topic in depth. Okay. So we give them these these topics and they explore as an enrichment activity. We talk about pre-assess in our school. All our students have to do a pre-assessment in terms of multiple intelligence survey, learning styles at the beginning of the school year. The teacher uses these as a guide for providing instructions for our students. And I do have a copy of the multiple intelligence test and the learning style inventory. So we know our students who are visual learners, who are auditory learners. And when we do instructions, we make sure that their learning styles are taken into consideration. Corporate groups, we talked about grouping kids. Students are oftentimes working in groups. We encourage corporate grouping. We had a CEO who came to speak with our students, and he said that one of the things that students who come into the big organization, the big tech companies, is that they do not know how to work as a team. So ever since he came, corporate grouping is just encouraged within our school. These are where students of 2 to 10 groups of students work for short periods of time to address differences in students' interests, learning or expression, style preferences. They use prior knowledge, readiness, and learning rate. This should include a range of grouping options that change purposely as needed. Group tasks are different and honor students' differences. Choices are facilitated by the teachers. So if a student comes, if we're going to do a project, a student comes and says, I want to work in this group. The boys might come and say, for this group project, we want to work with only boys or only group girls, or we want to work together because we do the same aftercare. So for us, that's important. Or we're on the same swimming team. So we do facilitate all of that. We do acceleration. So in acceleration, we do grade skipping is sometimes recommended for our students, because while we differentiate the instructions and we compact the curriculum, maybe a student who is at the 4th grade level is doing an 8th grade, so at the 8th grade level for reading. So we accelerate these students. We do Subject matter acceleration. So that's the student who is reading at the 8th grade level, who is in a 4th grade class. So we accommodate that student. So we build a special schedule for the student so that the students is interacting with the 8th grade class at that time. We do with the curriculum compacting. We do telescoping, which is a very interesting topic, and our students just love doing that. And we monitor continuous progress for our students while we're doing all this acceleration, because sometimes we accelerate students and maybe this is not the best fit for them, because oftentimes some of our gifted students, they are smart but the social skills are not developed. So they might be a 6th grader might be at a 10th grade level in math, but in terms of the social development, it is not there. And I want to share the strategy with you that we use in our classrooms every day. It's called the Kaplan's Depth and Complexity icons. These are 11 icons that we use to encourage students to dig in for deeper understanding of a topic or a concept that they're learning. So if we are talking about a mathematical topic or something that's happening in our society through their social studies class or even in English class, we use these depth and complexity icons. These icons help the students to think about that topic or that concept that they're learning, and they have the trends, the ethics, details, patterns, multiple perspectives over time, big idea, language of the discipline, rules, unanswered questions across disciplines. I want to go into this a little bit with you today because I think it is really, really interesting. So, for example, let's talk about immigrants. The word immigrants has come up a lot in the news. People talk about immigrants all the time, their contribution to the society. Some people are against immigrants. Some believe that immigrants should not be here. So if we're talking about the word immigrant, the teacher just throws the word out, or the classroom just throws the word out. What is the definition of immigrant? Immigrant is someone who comes from a country when we think of immigrants, what are some ethical issues that are associated with immigrants? If you're an immigrant and someone cheats you your money and you're illegal, can you go to the court and bring a case against this person, even though you're an illegal immigrant itself? If you are an immigrant, can they ask you for a paper, show your people? What are the ethical issues? And the kids dive into this. We talk about the details as it associates with an immigrant. Who is an immigrant? What is it? How are they contributed to our society? When we think of immigrants, what is it that people think about? Does it depend on where you're living as an immigrant? What is it about? Why is it that when certain people from certain countries go, they gravitate towards certain places? Is there a reason why this happens? What are the patterns as it relates to immigration? Our immigrants in our country? What are the different perspectives we're looking at? Is the perspective depends on who is talking about it? Does it depend on which nationality it is? So what are the different perspectives? And over time, how has immigrants evolved over time? Have the immigration issue in the United States changed? What is the big idea we think of when we talk about immigrants to the United States of America? So all these questions we're asking kids, we're not giving them any answer, but they're having these conversations in their groups because each group is given an icon to talk about. And after they've mastered this, we've modeled this 2-3 times. Every time we go to a conversation, the kids relate whatever concept they're teaching or they're learning or whatever topic they're learning about, whether it's math or science, social studies, foreign language, music. The icons are exhibited in their language and their conversations. What is the language of the discipline when we talk about immigrants? What are those words that comes to mind when we think of immigrants? The rules, what are the rules governing immigrants in the United States? Are the rules the same when you go to another country? What are those unanswered questions, guys, you still have when it comes to immigrants? What are those questions you may not know? And the unanswered questions are questions that we might not have an answer for, but the kids are getting engaged and they're asking these questions. And when we think about across disciplines, how are immigrants seen across disciplines in terms of not necessarily the disciplines within school, the science, social studies, but in the world out there? How many immigrants have in the United States have ever won a Nobel Prize? Or how many inventions was done by immigrants? So we start thinking about this. So whenever we introduce the topic to the students, the depth and complexity icons become a focus of their deeper thinking, and it is encouraged across contents. We do menu boards, as its name suggests. It's just a menu board of assignments that students are asked to do. They're given a topic to study, and then at the end of studying this topic, and it could be an independent research that they do, they choose one of the menus on the board and they're assigned their product, their end product. What is it they're going to do is based on one of these assignments. I do have an example of a menu board here. We can look at it. It is a Google Chrome TikTok for students. This is just an example, and we explore and search for Google Chrome. We're using it, but the teachers have one thing that they want to do, and they choose this from the menu. But within this star, they have to do what is here, and the students just choose one thing from here. All right. Just stop. I'm sorry. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. Okay. Ooh, did my internet go? Stop sharing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Cancel. I'm sorry. I have a technology issue. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And then I have an example of a lesson plan in my differentiator. It's a simple lesson plan, and it's asking me to, it's sharing with the teachers how I differentiate. And I'm just gonna run through this. The students were given, it's a science lesson, but it incorporates reading English language arts itself. So the students are asked to read an article. The article is the President's Council of Advisors in Science and Technology. And the students are required to, they'll be able to critically analyze through discussion, because I'm differentiating the instructions. So discussion, so the speakers are going to be able to engage, debate, writing, role play, podcast, interviews, create a book in Book Creator, a passage that addresses a scientific topic. So here's where we're differentiating based on content and based on product. And beginning with the discussion technique, which is a philosophical chair, if we were in the physical classroom, in order to demonstrate their understanding of the author's purpose for writing this selection. So as the students engage themselves in the lesson, apart from I introducing the lesson to the students and sharing with them what they are required to do, I have taken a back seat. The students are totally in control of the lesson. They're working in groups, they're having their conversations, they're using their depth and complexity icons to engage each other. And when they're done, they're using Jamboard and Padlet to share their responses to each other. And we've established this within the classroom, that students, when they get onto Jamboard and Padlet, they're sharing, yes, I agree, and this is the reason why. Oh, no, I disagree with you, and here are the reasons why I disagree. So this conversation is happening there. When they get to annotating their task and identifying the author's purpose, they will have to get back together, whether in a group this time or individually, and demonstrate their understanding of the text and the author's purpose. And the students get choices. They have a choice to show us. We don't necessarily want it in writing, but they can do a flip grade. They can do a piece of writing. If they wanted to do a book, a student did an interpretive dance based on her understanding. You had students who did TED Talks based on their understanding. Some students just want to write. Some students did a debate. A group of students did a debate. So this is how they differentiated, how we differentiated by giving them choice, but they showed their understanding with the different products that they shared with us. And this lesson plan is in the part.
You're muted.
You're mute.
You're muted, Miss Clark.
Good. All right. So the lesson plan is there for anyone who wants to look at that. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. Did my lesson plan go? I'm sorry. Guys, I'm having a little technical difficulties right now. Give me a minute. Or some sharing. Just a minute. I'm sorry. This is me. Okay, I'm back to, yeah, I had a little technical difficulties a while ago. Are you guys seeing me now?
Yes, we're seeing you, not seeing a
Not
picture.
the oh my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. And share my PowerPoint. Okay. All right, here we go. So, I'm sorry. Okay. So we have this lesson plan in so the participants will get a chance to view it and see how we demonstrate our lessons. So I want us to reflect a little bit on how as teachers, we go out there, we do a phenomenal job every day, but how can we improve our current practices through differentiated instructions to ensure the success of all students in the class? Just drop your responses in the chat for me. How can we as teachers improve our current practices? I know a lot of teachers out there, they're differentiating their instructions to meet the needs of all their students on a daily basis, but how can we continue this process in order to help the students? I'm giving you a minute to drop your responses. Are there any responses in the text, or did I put everybody to sleep? A minute to share.
Folks are saying sharing best practices.
Correct. Awesome.
Utilizing new technology tools for the students to use.
Correct. Yes. Yep. I think sharing best practices is a really good way of, us learning from each other also as teachers. Very good. Awesome. Okay. And my closing thoughts with us today, our goal as educators is to honor what students already know, what they want to learn about, and who they are as individuals. So as we go into the, go back into the classroom, many of us are doing hybrid, some school systems have started to consider going in full time, that's all we're going to do, honor what students already know, what they want to learn about, and who they are as individuals. And I, based on differentiated instructions, I did put together a list of resources that are great. This book, Differentiated Instructional Strategies, One Size Doesn't Fit All, is a phenomenal book that we should have as a part of our classroom library. And Differentiated Instructions for Students with a Learning Disability is a great, great, great one, because many of our students in our classrooms with disabilities are our gifted students, and sometimes they just need an opportunity to excel. And I do have a few activities that we could do just as a warm-up activity for our students. We do have some great math jokes or riddles there that we do in the mornings when the students have finished their community circles. And Birdseed is a great resource for gifted teachers of gifted students, or even teachers who want to do who wanted some additional strategies in order to help their students to be successful. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Clarke-Greene, this has been phenomenal. I do have some questions, but I think the questions from our chat are much more important. So I'm going to ask Carleen or Tasheka, if you would to please share a couple of those questions we do have a few minutes, not too much. If I can ask you to share one or two of those questions for Mrs. Clarke. I saw a bunch of them coming up.
Okay, I'll start it off. Okay, Tasheka. Kim Thompson Legislator asks, are gifted students kinesthetic?
Some are, not all students are. Some are. Some will hear, some are auditory. Some will hear it once and they'll get it. Some need to do that hands-on. Some are visual learners. So it depends. So that's why we do the inventory at the beginning of the school year, so that we can identify. And the students generally know what type of learners they are when they do that inventory.
Okay. So, Carleen, before you ask the next question, a related question to that, Mrs. Clarke-Greene. So when do you start that testing?
For gifted students, they're tested in the 3rd grade.
3rd grade, okay, all right. Yes. That makes sense. I was saying, boy, first that seems a little early, but
no, it's not. So in our school district, we have 3 types of gifted programs. We have the full gifted programs where the students are in the gifted programs at the elementary, the middle schools, and then they go to the specialist programs in high school. Then we have the pull-out programs. These are schools where students are gifted, but they're pulled out once per week to get additional instructions. And then you have tag in the regular classroom where these kids are gifted. They're with a group of students, but they're not in a whole school setting in terms of gifted education. Yes.
Okay, so so depending on your school and your school district, there are multiple approaches. Correct. That may a different approach that might be taken. Got it. Correct. Back to you, Carleen.
Okay, Nadine Dawes at Cespedes asks, how do you cater to a slow learner who is way below his or her grade level, who will do one exam with the others who are performing on average or way above average?
So how do I do what? I didn't get that question.
Cater to a slow learner.
So this is your class that has students that are across the board.
Correct.
So it sounds like, how do you one slow learner, one exam, and a gifted student
one exam.
That's where the differentiated instructions comes in. So what we do, we pre-test. You're using a unit, you pre-test the students. So here's my slow learner at this level. My gifted student, I differentiate the instructions. So his or her instruction is accelerated. So they are working in their group over there. And I've given them maybe they have an independent project where they're researching, because we're focusing on the standards that they have to do. And then I'm giving the attention. I'm having my community time with this student who is below level. So even though my student might be doing a research on the topic that we're doing as a full class, I could not give my slow learner or my below average student that same assignment. I can use that same standard with the same end result that they would have mastered a certain skill, but it cannot be at the advanced level. So this is where I differentiate the instruction.
Okay, that sounds like it answers Christine Howard's question about how she differentiates at the end of the term exam.
Right.
Just answered that, if I understand what the presentation.
And they can also, for differentiated at the end of the term, a student does not have to sit down and bubble in an answer to demonstrate that he or she has mastered the concept. They can write, if a student is musically inclined, they can write a music, a song to demonstrate their understanding of the concept itself. They could do a video, they could do a podcast, because we are focusing on their interest and what they're capable of doing.
All right. Now, Nadia Bailey asks, can early entry, which is KG1, lead to burnout later in grade 8, 9?
It can be, because we do have students who were phenomenal students in elementary school. They get to the middle school level and they just become unmotivated learners. So what we do is, what we have done is, and I do think it was a very effective strategy, prior to students coming, because we are a tag center, a school within a school. So we have this big school, and within the school, we have a tag center that we have our tag teachers, we have our own funding, we have our coordinator, everything. So what we do, we have put in place certain strategies. We reach out to the elementary schools that the students are coming in from, and we share with the parents and the students the strategies that they need in order to cope in the 8th grade. We provide them with a mentor. They have me, they have a guidance counselor, they have an assistant principal, they have everybody there to provide that support for them. And also with providing instructions for these students, the outcomes when these students are overachievers, like they have to prove to the world that I'm capable. We try to discourage that a lot. And what we do too, and next week we'll have every year, we have, not every year, we have what we call Ask Unplugged, is this or middle school. So we go into the elementary school just one day, and the students, the 8th graders, facility learning for the students, just choose a science topic, and they share with the students through this one topic, through social emotional needs, science, reading, math, how this is intertwined to being a middle school student. So they're getting a feel of the expectations. But in our school, we have a lot of support groups for the students, and we have lots of programs to help our students not to become burnt out as, as students in a gifted program.
Mrs. Clarke-Greene, go ahead. One more, Carlene.
No, I just wanted to let her know that there were several very positive comments, a lot of those, very informative, learning a lot. Thanks for the suggestion, very enlightening. Curriculum, this one said curriculum compacting, very interesting and informative. There are a lot of comments like that, where, when you talked about a specific topic, they were responding.
Thank you.
Fabulous feedback, Mrs. Clarke-Greene. I do have one quick follow-up question on a comment that you just made about your particular school and the fact that you have kind of a very central, I'll call it, gifted program for your gifted and talented. But do all of the students do anything together? I find myself thinking haves and have-nots. And I'm wondering if having that kind of core central group for the gifted and talented creates any of that.
It does create some animosity because, 4 years ago, there was a certain profile for gifted students, affluent, not necessarily students of color, even with being a coordinator, but my principal is phenomenal. We're a school within a school. So the students do all their core subjects together, math, science, social studies. However, they branch out for their electives. So they intertwine with the other students with their electives outside. And that enrichment mod twice per month, the students do get a chance to interact with each other.
Okay, that's good, because we've heard the stories of, just as you mentioned, of the students that are particularly gifted in a particular very early, and then they start to skip, and but their emotional
development
capabilities are not quite at the same level,
Yes.
and that creates some challenges for the child, and so I rather like that approach. So thank you very much. This has been a phenomenal presentation. Thank you very much. We very much appreciate it. To all of our viewers, know that we are streaming on YouTube, JDTAN TV, and so our videos will be posted there, and you can access it either from YouTube directly or certainly from our jdtan.org. So thank you very much again, Mrs. Clarke.
Yeah.
Very much appreciate you. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned. We do have another session coming up in just a few minutes. We may go off for just a bit, but come back because we'll be back. Thanks so much.